the show.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Cannabis Corner on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, broadcasting live from downtown New Haven. We are streaming live on TuneIn Radio and NewHavenIndependent.org. We're also streaming live video on Facebook and YouTube. Just go to your Facebook page, look us up, and hit see first to see and hear all the great programs that we have here on WNHHLP. Cannabis Corner is also streaming live on the Greenhaven Media Facebook page and ProCannabisMedia.com. Welcome, everyone. It is Monday, September the 8th, 2025. I am your host, Joe LaChance. Welcome to Cannabis Corner, Joe the Weed Guy. Uncle Lou has not joined me yet. I'm hoping that he joins us soon. But it is a beautiful day out today after a little rainy weekend. I will say I had a wonderful, wonderful time this weekend. I had some people over on Saturday hanging out, and we made some food and we worked in the garden. And I will say I got a lot accomplished, so I'm very, very happy about that. And things are looking good for the fall harvest. First off, I want to thank our sponsor, Gabe from Metatron Home Grow. He is our sponsor of this month. I want to thank him. He's got 2 locations down in Orange and in Meriden. And he's got classes on growing, extracting, bubble hash, cloning, machine rentals, anything that you need for your harvest or your grow. He has all the bags for the curing. He has anything that you need, and I gotta say, personally, I know that Gabe is a really great guy, and he has helped me very much along with my garden this year. And I gotta say, because of his help, it is really looking nice and thriving. So, and Gabe wanted me to let you know that he has some appearances coming up. He's going to be down at the Durham Fair from the 25th to the 28th. And then he's going to be at the Elevate and Thrive Festival. That is going to be on the 21st of this month. And that is up in Harper. We'll talk about that event in a minute. And then he also has the Soil Makers coming down for a seminar on the 14th down. And that's at the Orange location. And Gabe is also planning a really nice grand opening in October for the Orange location. He's been open for a while, but he hasn't really publicized or made a big deal or have the industry come down. But now we're going to do it. That'll be in October. And he'll keep us posted on when that is. But he's got 626 East Main Street in Meriden. And he has 185 Boston Post Road. You can check him out at metatronhomegrown.com. So we're looking forward to that. Also, there are a couple of events that that are coming up that I wanted to highlight. One, of course, is this weekend. They have the Holy Ghost Park in Shelton. We have the Burn and Learn Carnival. And that is something that I am the host of. Cannabis Corner and Greenhaven Media are a proud media sponsor of it. We do one a month, and it's for the whole summer. And this month's theme is a carnival. So there will be some games and fun and games there. That is from 12 to 7 this Saturday the 13th. You could come by, stop and see me. I'll have the Make America Green t-shirts there, hanging out. I'll be on the stage introducing all the bands and just hanging out with the crowd and having a great time. Stop by and say hi. That's at the Holy Ghost Park from 12 to 7 on Saturday. And the second event I wanted to talk to is next Sunday over at the Trinity Health Stadium. It is the Elevate and Thrive Wellness Festival. And that is put on at the Trinity Health Stadium. There's going to be a ton of stuff there. I know our good friend Uzma will be there. Also, the Canna Yoga will be there. They're giving away a bunch of stuff. They're giving away a 100 gift card from Fine Fettle. All kinds of good stuff. A lot of the people we know will be there. Gabe, of course, will be there from Metatron Homegrow. I will be there, not necessarily as a host, but I'll be working with the CCSBA, of which I am a board member. So I wanted to make sure that that you guys come down and say hi to that. There are some controversial things going on about who's sponsoring his stuff, but I gotta say, I spoke to the people who are running it. I know them very well, and I asked them flat out why they did it. And basically, she gave me an answer that I was satisfied with, because she did tell me that it is a place where if you come, you can educate the people on your own and let them know who is the better dispensary. So, in other words, it doesn't mean we have to keep our mouth shut up there, just between us. All right, so let's go up, and we want to support Cody. Cody Richards is delivering there, and unfortunately, because Curaleaf has the contract for that area, he has to work with them. But you know what? He's a member of our community. The people putting this on are a member of the community, and I think it's important that we support them, and we also let them know how we feel. It's very important. So that's just my 2 cents on it. I have my own opinion on taking monies from MSOs. It's not something I would personally do, but I know the motivations, and I did speak to the people running it. I was satisfied with their answer, but I still have my things about it. But I want to support the people there, like Uzma and Canna Yoga, and all the people that a lot of our community will be there as vendors. So, with that being said, I would love to bring on our guests. So those are the two events: this Saturday over at Holy Ghost, and then December 21st at Trinity Stadium in Hartford. And that's a big deal for a cannabis event to be there, and that's one of the reasons I want to support it. To get them to support cannabis is a big deal, and deliver it there and consume. So there's reasons not to, and there are reasons to. I weighed them out. I think the reasons to are outweigh the reasons not to. So that's my 2 cents on it. I love you guys, but guess what? Our guest is here. I'm really excited to talk to him because I've been wanting to have him on the show for a while. I've seen him at his events. I see his seeds all over the place. I actually grew some of his tomato seeds this year, and they were wonderful yellow tomatoes. Not something you would find at a normal garden shop. So, and I really love what this guy does. So with us right now is Corey Fink from Focus Seeds. And Focus was started in 2019 by Corey Fink with the mission to provide gardeners, homesteaders, and farmers with high quality, unique vegetable, herb, and cannabis seeds. The seeds are adapted to Connecticut as well as the greater eastern U.S. We focus on open, pollinated, and heirloom cultivars grown in organic systems. All of our seeds are non-GMO. Corey, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I love what you're doing over there. As I said, you and I have met out at various events, and we've always spoken. I see your seeds all over the place in various grow stores. I know my friend Gabe up there carries them, and he says they do very well. And myself personally, I actually won a whole packet of your heirloom seeds, a whole assorted pack to grow, and this was vegetables, had nothing to do with cannabis. And I did grow one out this year, and it came out really, really nice. It was a yellow tomato.
Oh, so that was the German yellow?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, whatever
Okay.
came in, I forget the name. I plant the seeds and I put the pack away. But yeah, and they're beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It's not like I said, it's something like I grow like 6 or 8 different varieties every year. And I got 2 different ones this year from 2 different people that were very unique that you couldn't find anywhere. One was the one you got, and the other I got from D at Grow City Depot. And yours was a yellow, his was a plum midnight Roma, which
Okay.
comes out black, like purple black, but beautifully red inside. And I gotta say, the tomatoes were delicious. I gave a couple to friends of mine, and they were raving about them. I made a beautiful salad with them for my friends. Everybody loved them. So thank you, Corey, for making my meals in my garden more colorful.
Awesome. Always glad to hear that.
Yeah, no, no, very much so. But I wanted to know, like, you've been obviously you said you're a horticulturist, so you
Yes.
started out in horticulture. For
Yep.
those who don't know, what were you doing?
Yeah, so I have a formal degree in horticulture. So
Okay,
that's why I mean, I'm really a farmer, but
right,
yes, yeah, yeah. But I do have a formal degree in horticulture, and then I did work in the horticulture industry doing hemp breeding professionally, as well as doing estate management for different plant operations, mostly ornamental stuff. But I also then got into doing the food. I ran a organic farm for over 10 years and then got more into the plant breeding and seed saving end of it.
right, right. I guess that's right. Getting down right to the source, when you start getting into the seeds. And was there a reason that you decided the seeds needed a lot more attention right now than the actual growing part, the farming part?
Yeah, I think especially in these times, the seed industry was a very much a regional small farm endeavor. It's now probably one of the biggest commodities in the United States, and in the world. And we have a lot of the smaller seed companies that are kind of just getting, gobbled up by larger companies, the Bears, the Monsantos, and all of that. And then the regional seed growers are also starting to get gobbled up by larger growers. So you see a lot of
That's
old,
when they know.
yeah, yeah. You've seen a lot of older heirloom varieties go by the wayside. A lot of even nice open pollinated varieties that that were bred for smaller farms, medium sized farms for market, like especially carrot seed and stuff like that. That they're not getting grown anymore. So you're getting, you might go on to Baker Creek and have this wide selection of seed, but a lot of it's not even grown in the United States anymore. So I'm trying to, bring back more of a regional, seed company and farm. So yeah, we're vertically integrated. We grow all of the seed that we sell. There's a couple exceptions, but those exceptions are a friend of mine up in New Hampshire who's a small farmer. He grows those for us.
Yeah, as long as you know the source, because there are some things that sometimes are very difficult to create seed from. Um, but yeah, and I agree with you. I see, when I go into like any store, you can go into the dollar store and buy seeds for flowers or vegetables, but they're always the same brand. I see this brand out there, Burpee. That seems to be one of the big ones that has taken over the seed industry. And I'm kind of guessing that they're owned by one of those companies that you mentioned before. And those seeds are not necessarily heirloom. They could possibly be GMO seeds. And I want people to know the difference between something you're going to go out and buy at your regular garden shop, or even Home Depot, right? Or Walmart sells them. The difference between those seeds and the vegetables that you're going to get from those seeds compared to what you would get from a small seed grower like you, a small farmer, and the difference, what they do to these seeds now, when they mass produce them like that and sell them out to the public, is not necessarily good for the crop. Correct?
Yeah, yeah, I would say. I mean, once you start to get into huge monocultures, there's a lot of issues with that.
Right.
And then also too, like I said before, where they're sourcing the seed is usually a lot of times overseas, because you could, places in China and India have huge
There
agricultural
you go.
operations,
There you
and
go.
they can it's pennies on the dollar for them to produce, and so I always go back to peppers for an example for
Right.
customers. Everyone here in Connecticut, well, not everyone, but a lot of people will complain that they can't grow a nice bell pepper. And I tell them, well, most of the bell pepper seeds that you get, um, you know, from Burpee, those are going to be something like California Wonder, which is a pepper that was bred in California. Most of the seed production is on the West Coast. So when you try to grow it in our climate in Connecticut, we have different soils, we have a different season length, we have different pests, we have different diseases. So all that kind of makes it so somebody's been trying to grow this pepper for years and they just can't quite get it to work, even though,
Right.
the picture in the seed catalog or online looks great, the description looks great, and they just can't figure out why they can't grow this plant. So I tell them,
Be-
that's why I select the varieties I do, because if you're going to grow them in our area, they're going to perform well.
and you're absolutely right because I always had a hard time growing bell peppers. I would get little ones, but this year I went to Gabe and got some starters, and they grew great. And then I also went over to D at Grow City and got some starters. They were already started. One was yellow and one was red. And both of them, I got at least 4 or 5 peppers that went to ripeness. Because that's always the thing, especially when you're doing a yellow or a red. You got to wait for them to get ripe. And sometimes they never get large enough here because of like you say, the normal seeds that you buy. You really got to go to smaller people who are doing grow shops. You're never going to find a good bell pepper or anything like that if you're buying it outside at Walmart or outside your Stop and Shop. Or you really aren't, and you're absolutely right. People, I don't think people realize the regionality of of each crop. There are certain crops you can't go grow in certain areas of the country, yet some of the seeds come from that area, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. Like for me, going back to the peppers, I love to grow shishitos here because they're a
Right,
small pepper, very flavorful. And right now, I was right before we started talking, I was out in my field harvesting a ton of ripe red shishitos. So it's the
right.
perfect time of year for that. And like I said, I know a lot of people who are still just struggling just to get a couple green bell peppers now. So,
Yeah.
but um, but
Yeah,
yeah.
they go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, and I was Grow City Depot also carries my seeds too, and I'm
Yes,
I'm
they
friends
do.
and I'm friends with them. So yeah, yeah, I highly recommend them for to check out
Well,
their
I gotta
store. And
imagine where they started their starters from are
well,
probably your seeds.
that's what I was thinking. If you got some starters from Gabe and from them, they're probably from my seeds. So
Of course they were. That's kind of why I brought it up. So in it, in not inadvertently, but I grew a lot of your stuff this year because I got a lot of stuff from them. I got the tomatoes. I don't know. That might have been your seed, the Roma Midnight Romas. I
those
do.
those ones were not, but I do have a San Marzano. Those are he got those from somewhere else. But
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that's why I want to support you guys. That's the whole thing. If I'm going to grow a vegetable garden and other things, I'm going to support the local people who are doing it. It's great that if I can buy it from Gabe, I still know it's coming from you. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Because, as far as I'm concerned, like you said, if you're making them here in Connecticut, you're growing them, you're cultivating them, you're packaging them, you're drying them, you do that all here in Connecticut. Um, then they got to be good to grow here. And we should support you because, like you said, even some of the small guys are getting bought up. And that's a bad sign because when those larger companies buy them up, they they're not the same. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate truth about it. But I do think small ag is making a resurgence, especially within the last 4 or 5 years. A lot's changed. People really want to grow their own food. They want to be healthier. They want to have that connection to nature. So
I do. I believe a certain segment of the population has become aware and educated enough to know that the commercial food system is not giving them food that is nutritious. And people always knew, yes, processed foods are bad, etc. But I think they always thought that produce at least was one of those things that still had vitamins and natural. It doesn't anymore. And that's the real truth of the matter. A tomato you buy in the grocery store probably has a quarter of what it used to have in it 20 years ago. And this is like we talked about before, monocropping, the GMO seeds that they're using, this big farm, big farming, agricultural, doesn't know how to take care of the soil, remediate it properly. The soil is totally depleted. And I think it's finally come around that people are looking backwards to say, wait, if we were healthier then, what were we doing back then? And we were growing our own food. We were buying food from small farms. If not, we were growing it in our backyard. When I was a child, we had a huge garden in our backyard, and when we bought our produce, it was from a small market. So it was a whole different world, and I'm so happy to see that people are coming to that realization. And it is good to see. It's nice to see more seeds out there. It's nice to see more people with gardens. It really, really is, and I hope it helps you thrive as well.
Oh yeah, it's been our business has been growing and it's been steady and it's been very positive. So yeah, I'm actually pretty optimistic for the future. I think there's going to be a lot of positive things within the world of agriculture, and even within, you know, it is sad that a lot of small farms are going by the wayside, but the positive side of it is there's a lot more innovation in that space because the people
Hmm.
who are in it are very dedicated. So even the equipment and tools that you can find now are less geared towards, larger companies. There's a lot of innovation.
I
So yeah.
agree. And I even believe for the home grower, and this is not just with cannabis, the home grower, a lot of innovation has come around so that you can grow in a small space and even indoors and have a decent crop and harvest because they have just come up with these ways where you can have it growing from a panel on the walls. I mean, it's really made it a lot easier and more convenient for people to learn how to do that. I think we see that in the cannabis industry as well, you know. So it's just a question of educating people.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean that's another part of our business too is we always try to educate. That's why I like having a front facing, retail facing business because I get to actually interact with people, talk with growers, talk with customers. Education is a big part of our company. We a lot of workshops and we do speaking events, and I even, working on some more, you know, books and templates and stuff for people to learn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so one of the big things that I got into the past couple years is tobacco,
Ha
and
ha ha ha.
so
Good. Good. I'll
so
tell you a little bit after you do that. Tell me about that.
yeah, so we've been doing a lot of tobacco seed lately, and it's hard for the average home grower to find information on how to grow your own tobacco at home and successfully cure it, and actually do something with it. So, one of the things I did once we started to sell tobacco seeds was I wrote a little 23-page PDF guide. It's got a bunch of photos in there. It shows you how to grow it, how to harvest it, how to cure it, and a little bit of how to process it and what you can do with it. So it makes it a lot easier for somebody who, they want to do this for whatever reason. Maybe they want to grow their own wraps or they just like the plant. Instead of trying to search around on Google, which in the past all the information was very much based on mass.
Commercial. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Mostly company or big farms growing for cigarettes. So you go on to the North Carolina USDA website and all it has is 100 acres. This is how you grow tobacco. This is how
Right.
big your barn needs to be. It's not for the family that just wants to grow 10 tobacco plants in their backyard. So
Well,
that
let me ask you about the legality of that in Connecticut. I know we used to be. Hell, we used to be a big tobacco producer. Is it legal to grow tobacco?
Yes, so it's
Good.
completely
I want
legal
to
for
get
you to
into
grow.
this.
Yep. The only stipulation is if you want to give somebody tobacco, it has to be a whole leaf, which means
You can't grind it,
you
right?
can't grind it, you can't strip it off the stem. But as long as it's a full leaf, you can sell it or you can gift it to somebody who's over the age of 21. So,
Wow.
yeah. But
Well,
as far as growing it, it's completely legal.
let me ask you a question. Do you have that PDF ready?
Yes, I have a copy of it. Sure.
Can you send me one? Coincidentally, I saw my friend Gabe, and he happened to have some little starters
Yep.
of
Yep. This is for
tobacco. And he, of course, told me it came from you. And he said that you were getting into this now. So he said, would you like to try one and just grow it in your garden just to see? And I said, yes. And I have a nice tobacco plant in my back garden. That's why I want to check with the legality before we spoke about it on there. Um, and the leaves are starting to be big enough so that I could actually start harvesting and make a wrap out of it. To be honest with you, they're big enough. I have a couple leaves on it, and because I really don't know how to grow it, I just put it in a pot and put it outside. It was a tiny little starter he gave to me, and now it's a big tobacco plant. But it seems to be growing out and not up. And I'm wondering if it's supposed to grow up or out. But I have some leaves that are big enough to harvest and could get wraps out of, but I have no clue how to cure them.
okay.
So that's that's where I'm at. I'm ready to try the second step, but I have no clue because I know it's different than curing weed.
Yes, yeah, it's a little bit different. I'll definitely send you that once we're finished here. But yeah, it's supposed to grow more up. I mean, tobacco plants can get pretty tall depending on the
I
variety you're
knew that.
going. Yeah, yeah, and you should usually top the flowers too. But you should be okay. The biggest thing,
It's my first year. It's an
yeah,
experiment, but I'm gonna tell you if I'll start growing it more if I learn how to do it.
yeah, and I tell people too to think of it like a tree in the when you're curing it in the fall, losing its leaves, right? You don't they kind of turn from that green to that brown color. You don't
Right.
want to take it and dry it like you do cannabis. You're not going to drop that humidity way down. You want to keep it a little bit higher
Yeah, because you
around.
want it to be a little pliable.
Yes, so you want to keep the humidity around 65 to 70%, and it could fluctuate between that. Um, but that's how high you want the humidity when you're curing it, and that process is going to last anywhere from 6 to 8 to possibly 10 weeks if you're doing like a broadleaf type. So
Yeah, that's what
it's
Gabe was
longer.
saying. It did take a
Yeah,
while.
yeah, and you should see that nice color change. The biggest mistake I see is there's a lot of talented growers, and what they do is once they harvest the leaves, they throw it in their tent where they dry their flower, and they just get these green brittle
Oh,
leaves that taste awful because they still have all that ammonia and chlorophyll in the leaf, and you know that curing process breaks all that down. You get all the starches and sugars and all that to break down properly, and you get a nice sweet, you know, very very mellow leaf.
see, I'm glad you brought that up because I'm at the point where I'm ready to take a few leaves off it. Because Gabe told me you got to if you take them, they'll grow. They keep growing. It's like topping, like you
Yes.
said, or cutting your fan leaves. The ones that get big need to be harvested. But yeah, so great. If you could send me over, you got my email. Send over that PDF, and I might be calling you. Where's your retail store?
So I don't really have a retail store. I have a little bit of a different setup than your average farm because we're a seed farm. We have to take into account cross pollination. So I
Oh,
actually farm three different plots within a mile radius of all of them. So I'm right on the Plymouth Thomaston line. I have two plots in Plymouth and then one in Thomaston.
and you
So
sell directly from there too. You sell your seeds out of there. That's where you do the classes and stuff.
well, I have a greenhouse that's open seasonally, May to June but otherwise it's just appointments. Most of my sales are through my website in
Right, and
on
just
brick and mortar.
stores.
Yep, in brick and mortar stores. And then if I do workshops and stuff, it's usually at a local grow shop or a or event like the Cannabis Expo, Connecticut Cannabis Expo. I've given a few talks
Right.
there, home and garden shows I give talks at, and
Sure. I
stuff like
remember
that.
you were up at Yukon. You did something with Yukon for their ag department.
Yes, for
Really
the
nothing to do with
yep.
cannabis.
No, that was for the Connecticut NOFA chapter. So yep,
Right,
yep,
Nova, yep.
yep.
So, and, a lot of people don't know that there is a large farming community here in Connecticut of people who are not just cannabis farmers, they are, or hemp farmers. They are farming still, they're farming vegetables and they're probably sourcing their seeds from you. I'm very interested, Corey. So you basically have a seed farm, right?
Yes. Yep.
And that includes the cannabis. How does one grow for seed? Because look, I can cut open a tomato and pull them seeds out, dry them out, and I got some tomato seeds. But it's different when I get a tomato seed and I buy it in a packet. They're very, very tiny. They look totally different than what's actually inside a tomato. So tell me, what is the difference between seed growing and regular farming?
So a lot of times you're taking the crop a lot longer than its normal date to maturity. So lettuce is a good example. You see that nice head of lettuce in the store. That took probably about 65 days, 60 days to grow that. Um, I don't know if anyone has grown lettuce and you had a bolt, which means the lettuce kind of opens up and it sends up a huge flower stalk.
Yep, I
Um,
had it. I just did it
yep.
on one of my lettuces because I kept cutting it and it kept growing and it finally got to the flower stalk.
Yep, yep. So that's like for that stalk to come up, the flowers to open, and all that seed to mature is another 40 to 60 days. So you're looking at you're taking this lettuce crop that normally is 60 days for a market farmer. I'm taking it to 120 days to be able to harvest the seed. So
Right,
it's a lot
right.
longer process. It's a little bit more involved because you have to manage fertility and pest pressure a little bit more.
The flowers start coming out the top of it, and that's where the seed is, right?
Yep.
And my mint, it's doing it right now. So and it creates flowers first and then seed, right?
Yes. Yep. Exactly. So, yep. You got to have good flower formation. You got to have good pollination. So that's another thing is you really have to be cognizant of the beneficial insects and kind of the wildlife around while
Yeah,
while doing seed
absolutely.
farming because you want to have adequate pollination. And like I said before too, you also want to make sure you don't want to have for cultivars cross pollinate. So that's one of the reasons why we farm multiple plots. So
Yeah,
that way we
three
can
different plots. That's
yeah.
quite a lot.
Yeah. I mean, they're not very large. We have one plot that's our largest is 4 acres is where I live, and then I have another plot that's a half acre with a greenhouse on it, and then another one up the street, and that one's about almost an acre. So we're not a huge farm, but it's definitely it's a good amount of space to
Does
manage.
the trick. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, now what do you do with the crops that actually come off of the seeds? Do you process them, make sauce, or make things out of them, or are they unusable after that?
Most of the time, they're pretty much unusable. Things like cucumbers, we let them get huge. They get yellow. They're super watery, and then we're just cutting them open, scooping the seed out into buckets. And but by that point, the cucumber is it's not very
It's
edible.
compost, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing with like tomatoes. We're running them through like large blenders. Same thing with peppers. So most of the time stuff isn't really usable. One exception to that is winter squash. So those are nice because I'm able to cut those in half, scoop out the seed, and then I have some nice squash to roast up for dinner.
There
Uh,
you go.
but
Nice.
I've had chickens for years, so it's good
Oh.
way to feed them with kind of the waste, and then yeah, we also compost too.
Yeah, of course. You compost it, put it right back in the ground. Again, this is what commercial farming is not doing. And I think people need to understand that. So now let's get to what this show is about, and that's cannabis. Now, first of all, how many varieties of seeds for vegetables do you do flowers too, or no? You're not bothered.
A little bit of flowers. I do sunflowers
Oh,
as
they're
well.
great.
Yep,
Yeah.
and a couple varieties of poppies. So, but I'm not huge into into a flower seed.
Yeah, for those who don't know, if you do grow sunflowers, you let them grow all the way. They do eventually get grow the seeds.
Yep.
Yeah. So how many varieties?
For the vegetables, I want to say I'm around 50 to 60, depending on the year. It kind of ebbs and flows, but somewhere around that.
And you have some really unique stuff. I know in the package I saw shishito peppers. I saw some really, really hot ones. You have all kinds of different stuff, peppers, tomatoes, like you say, squash, pumpkin, all that kind of stuff. You got to check these guys out if you want to grow at home for sure. And if you don't know how to grow at home, I'm sure there's a lot of places you can learn, and Corey can guide you in the right direction. But so that's great. That's just the vegetables. That is just the vegetables. And do you do any fruits like cherries, strawberry trees, stuff like that? Any tree fruits or no?
No, no, just we specialize in edible and medicinal crops, but mostly herbaceous. So I don't do any woody crops, but we do some
Oh,
perennial stuff. But
all right. Well, we
but
got
no
a
fruit
little.
trees.
Before we get into the cannabis, what kind of medicinal herbs do you grow over there? Just so people understand, you can grow your own food, but you can also grow your own medicine. That's besides cannabis.
Yes.
What do
So
you like, St. John's wort? Give it, because I'm interested. I'm going to do a little indoor thing this year, and I want to grow some medicinal herbs, in there because I know they're small, that you don't take up much space. What medicinal herbs? You do holy basil? What do you do over there?
yep. So we've definitely done holy basil in the past. Tulsi is it's another name for it.
Tulsi, yep.
Yep. Other different types of basils. And then I also do like, cooking herbs that also have medicinal benefits. So we've done things like, sage, but also like valerian root. We sell elderberry plants. That's probably the only woody crop that I've done a lot of. But we do elderberries in the spring and summer. Um, we also do, like I said, we do poppies. We do the
Oh, okay.
Papaver seminiferum, which are the opium poppies. So we sell seeds for those, a couple different varieties. They're both ornamental and medicinal. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So, and how about St. John's wort? That's one I've always been interested in growing.
I don't do that for seed, but I've definitely grown it in the past, and it's a great plant to grow.
And again, if you get in touch with Corey and I may just do this, I'm sure you could source them if you needed to, if there were certain ones, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Very
even
very
on
good.
that, well, hey Joe, how's it
Hey, Lou.
going?
Oh, there you are. Hi, Lou.
Yeah,
Long
hey,
time no.
lots going on, lots going
Good.
on.
Good. Good.
But
Good.
we had some of Corey's seeds. We gave out a whole bunch of Corey's focus seeds that he had gifted me. Always a pleasure, brother.
How you doing?
We had gave a whole bunch out at the dispensary. Actually, Joe, they were in the
Yes, I
little
remember
pot from
that.
the freebie seeds. So big shout out to everybody. And they were not cannabis seeds; they were all the different types of seeds. There were cucumber seeds, mint seeds. There were a whole bunch of really cool seeds. There were some sunflower seeds in there too.
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got over 50 varieties of stuff. I definitely am going to get more for not only over the winter time, but for next summer. I'm going to be growing a huge Corey garden
Yeah,
next year.
you
Go,
have
you
a.
saw mine. It's very nice,
It
but
is
I want to
nice.
go bigger.
Well, you have a limited space, and you are doing everything's in containers. Your owl is protecting it nice there. But Joe, seasonally, if Corey could suggest some seasonal things that are going to go through now that we could do it, that you could do in a container or something, why not? Right?
Yeah, I know I got some sweet potatoes growing right now. Yeah, something
There
like
you
that,
go.
Corey.
Yeah, are you talking about growing stuff indoors or outdoors this time of year?
So it'd be somewhat outdoors just to overwinter. I know things don't necessarily grow, but there's stuff that you could put into the ground that might.
Garlic, right? Things like that.
Yeah, yeah, you could plant garlic this time of year.
Okay,
That's usually planted in the fall, but most of your annual vegetable crops are going to be done in probably like 6 weeks or so.
perfect.
There's still a little bit of time if you want to do some basil, which you could start that outdoors and then bring it inside, put it in a windowsill or something,
That's right. Yep.
or even like lettuce. You could start a lettuce crop now, but
Yeah, right.
we're
And you can
little
grow that
limited.
indoors. Yeah, with
Yeah,
very little light.
Yeah.
Yeah, people need to, but yeah, so you can still do it over the winter. But I want to get into cannabis now, and it's good that you came back here, Lou, because we've been talking about seed farming and how he does it for veggies. Now, I got to think it's a little different for cannabis because you got that male female dynamic there that you have to play around with, right? To get the proper seeds and the strains and all that. It's a bit different when you're creating strains,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that, and then I want to get into how many strains you have and all that.
Sure, yeah. So cannabis is a dioecious plant, which means that there are both male and female plants. So obviously, most people are familiar with the female flowers. That's what you like to smoke or consume. But the other half of that is the male plant,
That we
which is
kill.
yeah, which most people do not want. But if you want to produce seeds, then you need to have pollen to fertilize those female flowers and produce the seed. So
Right.
yeah, so I specialize mainly in autoflowers. Both regular varieties, which are male and female, and feminized varieties, which are you still need the pollen, but that process is a little bit different because instead of having a male plant, you're collecting pollen from a female plant, so that way when you're making the seed, that seed has two X chromosomes, which means it'll be female. So
That's how you crossbreed is by collecting the pollen selectively and putting it on the plant, not letting it happen naturally, right?
well, I do have some cultivars that I do let them open pollinate.
Or you
One
put
is
them in the tent together and let them have sex.
Well, yes. So but I'm doing this mostly outdoors. Like for my autoflower breeding, I have a cultivar called Sherman's Tactics, and so that's a field bred autoflower. So it's very good if somebody wants to grow outdoors or in a container.
I think
For
it's important too that people know the difference, you know?
Yes, yep.
So everything mostly autoflower. Now, the autoflowers still have the possibility of being male or female, or are they feminized as well?
So it's same rules apply for them as the photo period plants. So yep, you can have regular seeds, which still could be male or female, or you could have the feminized seeds. One thing people mistakenly assume is that because feminized autoflowers are so prolific, they think that all autos are female, which is not the case. They'll
Mm.
there's regular lines that act exactly like a regular photo line too, where
All right.
there's
So
going to
you,
be male
you
and female
still could have
plants.
that hit or miss
Yep.
with the packet of seeds, but you do have feminized ones, which will grow feminine, right?
Yes,
Will
correct.
grow all female plants. If you buy a packet of feminized seeds, they will. You guaranteed they'll grow all feminine. You don't have to worry about killing males, right?
Yes, yep, exactly.
Yeah. Now, how do you feminize a seed?
So that has to do with basically making another female plant produce anthers, which is the male structure, which would produce the pollen. So you're taking a female plant. Usually, you're introducing some type of either hormone or compound to make the female plant produce, like I said, anther, which people always those little male looking flowers. Some people call them bananas. They're kind of like a banana. Um,
You gotta, I don't. You gotta kind of transition it.
yes, yep, yep. So there's a few ways to do it.
Very interesting. How you
Yeah. So one way to do it
has
is
to be
to
kind of a
take
transplant.
in a way. One of the ways to do it is to take silver and actually get the plant to absorb the silver. It basically makes the plant produce. It stops ethylene production in the plant, and that'll tells the plants, okay, I need to make a flowering structure to reproduce. They make the anthers, and then those anthers will open up. They'll drop pollen, and then you can collect that pollen and then apply it to the female plant that you want to pollinate. And so that way, because that pollen came from another female plant, you can guarantee those seeds are going to be female.
Wow.
But because you're going through
Wow.
that process, it's a little bit trickier than male plants because you'll some female plants for whatever reason they won't produce the
Yeah,
anthers,
right. You're
or they
right.
produce the anthers but they won't produce the pollen, or the amount of pollen that they produce is very low.
So it's a science,
yeah,
and of
yeah.
course, with every different strain and everything's going to be different. Like you say, some will do it, some will won't. So wow, that is a lot of a lot of work, a lot of experimentation. I'm sure by now you know though which ones will and which ones won't
Yes, and it's
through
very
all the
cultivar
years of
dependent.
doing it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So all right, and so rather than strains, it's called cultivar. I think
Well,
that's a better name for
yeah, I
it.
mean, people call them strains, which there's nothing technically, I guess, wrong with that. But from a horticultural perspective, you wouldn't necessarily call them a strain. Strain is usually when you're talking about like viruses or bacteria,
Right.
or like even sometimes mushrooms get into strains, because that's talking about changes in the genome, where cannabis, because it's a cultivated plant, in horticulture industry normally refers to that as a cultivar. So
Okay.
I think it's more of a thing that happened because cannabis was illegal. People weren't really allowed to
So they
talk about it
change, right?
openly.
Yeah, very
So
true.
people use different. So normally people don't talk about cannabis seeds. They'll use the genetics. They'll say cannabis genetics as kind of a
Right.
euphemism for seeds. And like I said, same thing with strain. They'll use the term strain instead
Right.
of cultivar. But I'm just used to because
Ooh, you're a
you know,
professional.
yeah. So I'm used to using cultivar,
It's
and
like when
it's
I go to my doctor, I say, "Well, this hurts, that hurts," and he goes, "Oh, you mean the da 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 da?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that. Yeah, right."
yeah. So nothing. Yeah, nothing against anyone who wants to use the term strain, but yeah, just the term is cultivar, so I tend to use that.
Hmm.
That's perfect. So now, all right. So this year at season, how many cultivars do you have on hand? What are you putting out there this year? How many different cultivars? And what is the most popular? What seems to be doing well this year? Just give us a little bit of overview of what you got going over there as far as cannabis this year and
Sure.
and for the upcoming year.
Yeah, sure. So currently I have three autoflower varieties. I don't tend to put out a lot of cultivars every single year like other breeders. I tend to focus on one or two, and I spend a lot of
Quality
time
over
working on those.
quantity, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't like to just put out stuff that I'm not happy with. So currently I have three. My little sister is a cultivar that's been around for a few years now. It's good for growing indoors. Great autoflower. It's on the F2 generation, so there's a little bit of variation in it, but it's got a lot of CBG in it.
Ah, okay.
For a THC dominant variety, it's got about 3 to 6% CBG in there, so it's great for inflammation and pain management, that sort of thing.
It's called My
Um,
Little Sister.
yeah, little
Okay.
sister. And then there is Sherman's Tactics, which I kind of talked about before.
Yeah.
That's a cultivar that I bred for outdoors. Great, great plant, like I said, for growing outside or in pots. They get fairly large, up to I've gotten some that are over 6 feet tall, but the majority of them outside in my field are around 4 feet tall, 3 feet wide, nice
Nice.
purple
Wow.
flowers. And that's a 2-to-1 variety, so that means it'll have you know, THC ratio is anywhere. THC is like in the upper teens, and then the CBD will be 6 to 8%, something like that. So it's like I said, I try to breed for pain, inflammation, things that are calming, soothing, more body high,
More medicinal
more
stuff.
medicinal stuff. Yeah.
Right, right.
So that's a great variety for that. And also, if anyone's wants to look at the pictures on the website, it's a beautiful flower. Nice purple,
I'm gonna
very
get
dark
some.
purple
I'll
buds.
get some of them for next
Um,
year. Or maybe an
and
indoor this year.
yeah, I mean you can grow it indoor. It's a regular auto flower, so there's a chance of getting male and female plants, but in my opinion, it's still worth it. Um,
Absolutely.
and then the last variety that I haven't formally released it yet, but if anyone's gone to some brick and mortar stores, it's now in stock in a few of them. Is the Bear Candy, which is a feminized autoflower, and that's a little bit more high THC cultivar. People I know, a lot of people who are legacy growers and consumers still like to have their more potent high THC flowers. So that's bred for growing indoors and outdoors. Sweet terpene profile, very fruity. And those plants get 3.5 feet tall or so, 2 feet wide, about 60 to 70 days from sowing to harvest. So it's a large plant, but it also finishes fairly quickly. And like I said, it's a feminized variety, and it's great for growing indoors and outdoors.
Right. And so those are the three you're really focusing on this year. Any other ones or?
I mean, I have a bunch of. I usually have 4 or 5 breeding projects I'm working on at a time, and it's usually kind of like I finish one every year. So,
So,
I
so
definitely have some stuff in the works, but yeah, those are the three ones.
I like that though. Cannabis is more of a specialty thing to you rather than, like you say, a lot of guys will put out 10 different varieties every season, and they're constantly creating new ones. And look, to be honest with you, sometimes they're not always perfected. Let's put it that way, because they rush them out to get them out. And I've run into this myself with certain, and they're local guys, but sometimes because you're working on so many, the quality is not always there. But I can see with you only doing two or three at a time, you're really focusing on the quality and, like you say, the medicinal aspects, the ratios, and everything. So that's why it's important to people. If you want to really grow a really high quality plant and spend some time in it, it's worth it to get some high quality, really, really developed cultivars.
As people work on them for a while, like he just said, it takes them about a year to really work through something. That means he grew it a couple times before
Yep.
really releasing it, and that
Yep.
it shows the passion. And this is where I've trust me, I've learned this 100% of the time. It's always nice, but once the cannabis becomes just work, a lot of that love comes out of it. So you want to always make sure to maintain that there's always more than just work with the cannabis.
And I'm sure, Corey, it's also a matter of time.
Oh
You
yeah,
are
yeah.
growing 50 varieties of other things.
Oh
That
yeah.
takes up a lot of time. So I'm sure the time spent on the cannabis is well spent.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
Yeah, like
sir.
my Sherman's Tactics, for instance, is on the F5 generation. So, I've
Wow,
been selecting it for over 4 years now to get it to where it is. So, um, yeah.
that's love.
That
That
is
is.
love. That is important. And that's why, it's important to support. And you've been doing it for how many years now, Corey?
I've been doing cannabis breeding for 8 years now, about.
And
Wow,
seeds in general.
that's love, baby.
Yep. So yeah, seeds about the same amount of
Yeah,
time.
2019 you started the
Yeah.
company,
Yeah.
but you've been doing it a long, long time, and it shows not only in the cannabis, the quality that obviously you're going to get, but also in your vegetables. Heirloom is hard to find these days, and when you can find an heirloom seed, you know what? Buy it and save it.
Save it. I have some
Because
packs. Yeah,
I have tons of Focus Seeds packages,
you
tons,
need to
because
have them.
you never know when your
Monsanto is
only
out
source
there.
of food will be food that you grow yourselves. Or the only safe source of food will be food that you grow yourselves.
Right, Joe.
And I mean it. It's really coming to that. People like Bill Gates and stuff are really doing things to the food that will eventually make it so it's not only not nutritious but poisonous.
You know
I'll
what? They
leave it
have their
at
own,
that.
Joe. They have their own gardens. They don't shop in supermarkets, Joe.
Absolutely not. They do not eat any of the food that their companies produce.
What do they say?
Absolutely
They
not.
don't let their kids play on iPads. They don't.
Nope. Nope. You got
Everything
to
that,
follow them.
yep, you
Everything
know,
they do, you should do. And that's
because they're selling us everything else.
Yep. And you can do it indoors. There's air gardens. There's tons of way to do it. But it all starts with the seed. Corey, we're running out of time. I want you real quick to just tell us your website, your social media, and where you're going to be. I know you're going to be out at some events too.
Yep. So you can check out my website, focusseeds.com, and then I'm on Instagram um, under Focus Seeds, and Focus is spelled PHOCAS
Right.
seeds. So yeah, it's actually Greek. So a lot of people think I'm saying focus, but it's
Right.
focus. So,
Focus, right.
but yeah. And then as far as upcoming events, I will be at the Elevate and Thrive Fest in Hartford,
Yes.
on the 21st. So you can that's my next event that I'll be at.
Great.
Um, and then I just want to. I know
NOFA's
you already.
coming up, isn't it?
What's that?
NOFA? Or are they
Uh,
not doing it?
that was back in March, so that's
Okay.
already passed. This next March will be for 2026. But and then I also just want to shout out like a couple of stores real quick. I know
Sure,
you
sure.
mentioned you already mentioned Grow Depot and
Mm-hmm.
Metatron. Also, 286 Grow out of East Hartford. Those are really good guys.
Yep,
Shocking on
yep.
Waterbury, and then Mr. Nice Guys and Lifestyles over in Waterbury as well. So,
Love it.
and yep.
Yeah, and
So,
that's mostly all the Connecticut stores. There's a couple more. We'll make sure you get in there too.
yep.
You know, perfect. So anybody who's locally around Connecticut, check out Focus Seeds. You won't regret it. You really, really won't. And Corey, thank you so much for coming on. It was a great show, very educational. I hope the listeners really get a lot out of it. And best of luck to you. We will see you in Hartford. And but we got to sign off now. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
All
Stay happy,
right.
healthy, and high, my friends.
Yes, Harry, hit that music. We're ready to go. Like, share, subscribe. Follow me at Joe the Weed Guy at Greenhaven Media. We'll see you this weekend at the Burn and Learn Fest. And then next weekend at Elevate and Thrive. I love you all. Thank you, Uncle Lou. Thank
Love
you,
you,
Corey.
brother.
We love you, everybody out there. And I hope you have a great